Sleep stars Ian McGregor and Rebecca Ferguson. So what is it about? So this is a sequel to The Shining, the Stanley Kubrick movie, which Stephen King did not like. But of course, Dr. Sleep, a new book came out, and of course they're going to make a movie off the Stephen King books because everything Stephen King does gets made into a movie either in theaters or Netflix. So what's this movie really about? It's no joke. He shines, so that's why it's called The Shining, and he meets this one kid who also can shine, but she is one of the strongest shiners, and she has seen other kids getting killed by this group of shine killers. I would call them shine killers because some of their names, like Crow, Miss Hat, just weird names that you're just like, huh, this is interesting that these names are really goofy. But I mean, they're old people that just look young, but they kill throughout the ages because they just kill the shining kids. And so with this, they got to team up, Ian McGregor, Danny, and this new kid to team up and get rid of these bad guys. So what did I like about this movie? To me, it was a perfectly serviceable Stephen King movie. To me, it's a successor of The Shining, which works pretty well with what it was trying to do. I enjoyed the acting in this movie. I enjoyed the atmosphere, and I enjoyed what they were actually trying to do. It kept me intrigued the whole time. The premise worked. The acting was great. Very unique twists and turns here and there. And I like how this was a kind of very subtle movie where it was a mix of CGI and real life. And I think that's where I will fault it a little bit in later on in this review. But like I said, the score was great. I enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed the acting. I enjoyed what this movie was trying to portray. Very unique scenarios in this movie. It is a decent length movie, an hour and 55 minutes. But this is a movie I would watch again just because of what it was, just what it showed on the screen. And I do think this is a better adaptation than It Chapter 2, which came out later this year. And I do think Doctor Sleep has a better hold on it. So here are the negatives. It's more of a nitpick. I wouldn't say. See, the hard thing is it's hard for me to judge this movie because I never read Doctor Sleep. But I can just tell you some weird things about this movie. Going into the movie, there's a lot of stuff from back in the day, like the 1980s, 2001, 2009, and you're just wondering why do they go back in time? Like there's just one you see in the trailer where like she's talking to the little girl with the flowers. And that's basically the opening. And I don't know why they actually decided to do that as the opening, like why they focus on the 80s a lot. Actually, now I do because they actually showed Danny younger, which they try to find a good actress to match Danny's mother in real life. You could just kind of tell like it wasn't really the same. Same with Danny. They did their best, so you gotta give a applaud for that. As well as later in the movie, they kind of showed Jack Nicholson. It's like that does not look like him at all. It was like, oh, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right at all. And you're just hoping like maybe Jack Nicholson himself would come out of the woodworks because he hasn't been in movies in God knows how long, and apparently doesn't look that hot. But if he made it interesting, like you know, Danny's vision, because that's the whole point. Danny is an alcoholic in this one. He has to get better to face his demons. Uh, I guess I didn't say this as well. This tapped into my fear of death. Like there was a scene where like kind of like where Danny works at a hospital or a hospice nurse, and he hospitals where people are gonna die at these homes, and this cat kind of knows where people are gonna die. And the first time this happens, I was almost like I want to say in tears just because these old people were actually like acting really well of like death, and death scares me a lot. Like the whole darkness thing and not happening, what's next, really kind of scares me. So they showed that in this movie pretty well. And it gave me the chills because I was like, oh, I don't like this because of it's my own fear. So yeah, there was something like that. But the negatives, like I said, I told about the timeline thing. I feel like it was a little too long in the beginning. It is a long movie that it could have cut some of it out. But this is with Stephen King now. This is not with the movie. I don't understand his obsession with killing kids. So there's this killing kids scene with Jeffrey Tambor in this movie, and it's pretty graphic, and it really turned my stomach the wrong way. Like, gore doesn't bother me, but this gore and what these, shine killers were doing, it was really disturbing. I know the director was trying to show it, but something about killing kids in movies doesn't fit right with me. Just it's not of course it's not natural, but I don't know. It got me the wrong way on that with everything. I know a lot of reviewers out there are saying that this movie that they didn't like the second or They liked 2/3 of the movie. They didn't like the last, like, being actually at the Shining Hotel. I didn't mind that at all. I thought it was a kind of cool homage, but it was very anticlimactic with how it just ends. Like, it just ends, and you're like, well, that's how we're ending it. Like, we had all this buildup, and that's really how we're ending it. Like, just like that. And you're just like, oh, we're not going to actually speed this up because what these people have done. You're literally showing these bad guys for a whole 2+ hours of the movie, and that's how you're going to get rid of some of the characters. Which they get rid of Danny's friend in this movie. I keep forgetting his name, but he's in a lot of movies. How he died. Well, you kind of know he's going to die in the movie anyway. Spoiler. But when it happened, you're just like, no, don't, no. Because you feel for that character of what he's going through. So you're like, oh, man, I wish that didn't happen. And then bad stuff does happen to the girl as well. That's in the trailer. There's just one scene, too, that kind of I've laughed at is where Rebecca Ferguson is trying to find the girl. Like, it's like, I don't know what they do. They just kind of like, they're in their body, but they wait their body to find people. And she was like searching through the world, and it just looked kind of really goofy. And I kind of had to laugh at it, like, oh, I wouldn't choose that as a choice of having her transport everywhere. It just looked kind of awkward. But yeah, that was my big issue with the movie. The anticlimacticness of it, some of the character choices, the longevity of it, and some scenes did not need to be in it. Like I said, I didn't read the book, and I heard there's a lot of stuff like the Momo scene, and there's other scenes where they just put it in there. Like, I heard the watch scene makes a lot more sense in the book, and there's a reason why in this when they just kind of throw it in there for him to get a job. So you can see faults in that. But like I said, I can't really judge it on the book. I could only judge it off the movie as itself. But Dr. Sleep, I enjoyed the acting. I enjoyed the score. The direction was fine. I do wish, with the direction and how I said CGI and everything, the iconic shot in the original Shining where they're going through the island and it's a real shot. This one's CGI. There's a lot of CGI going through the mountains, and you're like, do we have to rely on CGI this much? Like, where's the realism now? Like, if Stanley Kubrick could do it in the freaking 70s, why can't we do it in the 2019? Oh, it's cheaper. Well, you know what? Studio's got a shit ton of money, so you know what? Fork another $100K. You have it. To not do CGI and just get this realism of what it was going to be like in Colorado. I mean, this production's probably been over a year, and we're already in November. There was snow before. Anyway, but like the acting, like the score, like the environment, and I like how the story portrayed. Bad, just my personal Stephen King niches of killing kids. It doesn't feel right with me. It is overlong, and I didn't mind the last half of the movie like other people didn't. Like I said, anticlimactic, and then it was just a little nitpicks here and there of like, why is that character choice happening here and there? Like, there was one scene also where Danny finally meets the girl for the first time, and you kind of feel like Danny's friend is going to step in because it does look awkward. Like, they pan to him, and then they kind of just like ignore it. So you're like, interesting. But Dr. Sleep, I enjoyed it. It makes me want to rewatch The Shining just to see if I see anything that connects or not. And I wish they had Jack Nicholson in this movie because, finding the right actors for the 80s and Jack Nicholson just didn't work right. But Dr. Sleep will receive a 3.5 out of 5 with Futons. He goes at 70%. So see, the critics' news scores gave Dr. Sleep. So right now, with 49 critics, there's an 82% and no audience score yet because it's not in theaters until the 7th or 9th of November. But here's the critic consensus. Dr. Sleep forsakes the elemental terror of his predecessor for a more contemplative sequel that balances potent themes against spine-tingling chills. I kind of have to disagree with that because as a horror movie, this wasn't a horror movie. There's nothing scary about this movie at all. Like, it was more of a drama thriller with some action. There was no horror elements to this movie at all. Kind of like the Haunting of Hill House. He directed all 10 of them. There's nothing really scary about the Haunting House. I mean, there's some cool scenes, but maybe because I like horror movies, but none of them scare me because I know it's fake. But I love the atmosphere of them. But do you agree with the 70 or 82? Chase out the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. Well, no thanks, Futonotopia, you Futonians. Thank you for watching and have a great day. I didn't know why it was called Dr. Sleep, but they tell you why it's called Dr. Sleep, and it's a pretty good reason why it is. But yeah, the fear of dying.